In this video, I'm going to go over all the hard-earned lessons I've learned in business and metal fabrication, machining, anything to do with welding or having a fabrication shop. I've been in this business for 20 years and I've been through some high times and some low times. And so this video is all kind of my experience that I've learned in 20 years that I kind of wish somebody would have told me, and I wish I would have listened, because I could have learned some hard lessons that I had to learn, the hard way. And hopefully this video is out there to help some of y'all that are thinking about either starting a metal fabrication business or are in the metal fabrication business and are seeing some hard times. At first, I would like to address anybody that is looking to start a metal fabrication business that's in either machining or welding or just sheet metal fab. My first suggestion would be in your customer base. What customer base are you going to go after? And I've done both. I've done business to business, that's also referred to B2B, or business to consumer, which is BC. And I would highly recommend going, when you're starting off, to go to business. There's several benefits to that. First off, business, they're usually more understanding of what is required from a metal fabrication business, especially if you're starting out. Business to consumer, they might just think, oh, I need something welded. I need this part to be out of metal, aluminum. And their expectations might be a little different. Also, the margins aren't there. Business to business, usually, if you can find the right business, they know that they have to make money with whatever you produce for them. And also they know that is in their margin. So the margins for business to business, I find, are usually easier to justify, and also the margins are higher. And then your billing is less. The amount of billing sometimes that you have to do for business to consumer can take hours. And I know some website sales and things of that nature take care of that, but you're still having to, business to consumer might have to be shipping. That takes effort, and you can't really charge for that. Everybody in today's world expects free shipping. So if you're starting out, I would definitely build a base of business to business customers. That builds a base of good work. Usually that can come from a friend that you've worked for in the past, a past job that hey, I can take some extra work from them off their table to if they're really busy, or if they're needing a welder or a fabricator, machinist, that if you have that equipment at your home shop, that you can provide that service. And usually that can be some of your first customers. So when you're starting off, I definitely stay away from business to consumer. I'm not saying that it's not possible. I know there's several people out there that start businesses, selling signs and selling trinkets, things of that nature, like Etsy and things of that nature. And if you can, I say go for it. But in my experience, business to business is usually easier to obtain. The margins are better, and get paid is easier. Now, going on to that payment, when you're starting your business, I really believe that anybody that can be efficient in quoting, that means if somebody asks, hey, what would this cost? And if you're quick in quoting and sending a quote within a day, if not hours, I think that's half the battle. To me, it's amazing to me how many businesses are out there that the customer has to beg for a quote. And a lot of business I've won in my 20 years of business is simply just being quick in quoting. Um, and it's amazing how customers are refreshed by, when you ask for a quote, they get a quote within 2 hours, 1 hour, a day. Um, because I've been on the other side too. You're just trying to get a quote. You're trying to get something done, and the last thing a customer wants to do is fight for a vendor to give them a quote. And so if you're quick in quoting, that's just another tick in the positivity of their mindset of, man, this person is quick in quoting. So they have this expectation of, man, okay, they're going to provide a good product and provide it on a quick basis. And I think I've won probably 80% of my business just solely on the fact of quoting business quickly. Now that goes into payment. Especially starting off, always get payment up front. That if that's a deposit, 50%. In business, cash flow, especially when you're small, is everything. Um, I've been in situations where I might have a six-figure contract or six-figure job, but I'm hurting because I have to pay guys, I have to pay material, I have bills due, and I don't have that cash flow. I might have only taken 20% up front, or it's paid on delivery. And unless you are a bigger business and have a line of credit that might be able to float those type of things, starting off, you always want to try to cover your cost as payment up front, because it can kill you, and it can kill you quick. It can kill you within weeks, if not a month. So always try to get payment up front, and be honest with the customer. You'd be surprised of how many people that are in business realize that they were starting off once too, as their you know as a business that you're working for. So to be upfront, honest, I can't do this job unless I have some money up front. I have to pay for my material, things of that nature. And I think people, especially starting off, are afraid. Oh man, I'm going to lose this job. I'm just getting this job. I'm going to lose this job if I ask for payment up front. No, I don't think I've ever lost a job for asking for payment up front. And even in some jobs that I've asked for payment full up front, yeah, it's a little bit of a sticking point. You have to be more, you have to gain more of a trust of like, hey, I need this payment up front for these reasons. They're a little bit more taken back by it, but I don't think I've ever lost even a job for asking for payment up front. But you have to be trustworthy, and you have to, you know, basically explain to them how you're going to deliver the job and when you're going to deliver the job. On materials always charge for material, even if you have material laying around from a previous job. Always charge for material. Um, in today's world, with I know I've gone through this in 2016 with tariffs and material suppliers are going to use every excuse to up their price on materials. But you have to pass that on to the customer. You cannot absorb different material costs. After you get a job and you've quoted for a job, it comes back to the cash flow. I would instantly, as soon as you get that deposit, buy the material, because it could be 2 days later, and even though the quote says it's good for a week or good for 30 days for your material that you use that job, buy the material. Because I've also been in a situation where, all right, you got that big deposit, man, you want that kind of in your bank account to kind of pad things in the future. But I've had it in situations where that's gotten me in trouble, where you've had some of this money in the bank account because you're like, okay, well, I don't really need that material right now. I'll wait until we get to that part of the job, and then it's increased 20%, and you're like, oh man, I'm in a tough spot now. So as soon as that orders come in and you got that deposit, buy your material. Um, and that was going to save a lot of your the pains later on. Also, I've also got on Facebook, and you'd be surprised of how many people are selling drops of material. You'd be surprised of what you can buy for cheaper on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist for material that if you go to a metal supplier, they're going to charge you market rate. But there's some shops out there that have bought extra material and don't need that material. So there's ways to buy material, um, you know, on discount, but always charge the customer full rate for the material. Then we get into equipment. I I've seen a lot of people struggle with thinking that they always need this next piece of equipment to do a job. When I quote a job, I always quote a job knowing that, okay, this is the equipment I have, this is the equipment I need, um, and I try to put whatever extra equipment I have that I need for that job into the quote for that that next job. Um, you might think, wow, this is going to make the quote more than I can handle from a competitive situation, but don't rely on buying a piece of equipment to put yourself into debt just to do one job. Make sure that one job that you're going to do is going to cover that price of that equipment. Also, don't try to go into debt for a piece of equipment. I've been in situations where you're like, wow, this piece of equipment can get me so far. I can win so many more jobs. That hardly ever works out. When I buy new equipment, it's usually I'm flush with cash. To buy new equipment, I have to know that I have a big job and they're basically paying for it. I love to go and find used equipment. Used equipment, I think is if you know how to work on it. I've like my CNC mill is literally a Bridgeport that I converted, and then I try to make sure that when I do buy equipment, it's in a situation where it's not a gold rush. Everybody, when things are going great, manufacturers can charge a higher price for their equipment. There's usually a lead time, and you usually can get wrapped up in, I just spent overpaid for equipment. I need this equipment now. You get in on the floor. There might be a learning curve in software, anything, software or how to operate that equipment, and you get frustrated. You know that there's a big job on the line to get this equipment going, and it can come and bite you in the butt really quick. So I always try to, when I have that idea of this piece of equipment can move my business so much further ahead, I try to make sure that I'm buying a used piece of equipment. I have cash on hand to buy that piece of equipment, and it's not something that a job is waiting on the line for that piece of equipment. I want to have it in my good authority to be, or a good my own time to learn that piece of equipment, make sure it's up and running properly, and yeah, if it adds to my workflow, that's a huge, or my capability and my ability to win work, that's great. But I try not to win work just to justify a new piece of equipment, because it more likely than not it will bite you in the butt. So try to win jobs that you have the equipment for already. If it is requiring a new piece of equipment, make sure that the quote that you're giving to the customer reflects that. And if you want to expand your capabilities, do it on your own dime and do it on your own time. And that's going to make life, especially for yourself as a small business owner, much easier. Automation. Um, in my opinion, automation can be tricky. It can be a double-edged sword. I've bought robots. I've bought robots and converted them into welding robots. I have several CNC machines. Um, on the CNC machine front, in my opinion, you have to, as a business owner, be very comfortable and knowledgeable on CAD. If you do not know how to draw something in CAD and use that CNC machine yourself, you can go down a rabbit hole of paying too much money for employees to try to learn that. And that equipment is only going to make you money if you can jump in there, if your employee that you have working it is sick, and make that machine dance. Also, customers, especially in the B2C side of things, it is hard to charge for design work. Customers do not want to pay for it. Even businesses do not want to pay for it. CAD is such a um, to people that don't really understand the skills that are needed for behind it. They think you could just touch a computer, touch a couple buttons, and it puts out the part for you instantly. I've also seen business owners buy CNC equipment and they get on forums. Can somebody help me on the CAD this? And they are they're digging themselves a hole where that piece of equipment is a liability at that point, because they're never going to be able to get the margins to cover for that new piece of equipment, because the CAD is daunting for them. So before you get into CNC machining or CNC, plasma tables, fiber lasers, uh, I would strongly suggest are you spend a lot of time learn the skills of CAD, and it's almost needs to be natural for you, because if not, it's going to come and bite you. On the automation from like welding robots, things of that nature, you need pieces and parts in the thousands. I know automations get to a point where they're advertising, oh look, you just have to sit here and move the robot left to right. It'll learn your path, and you just have to push a button. And there's so much else to automation that from a layman term that seems, oh wow, that's all I have to do. Well, sadly, it's still, you still have a welding robot to it. Um, the expectation is, oh man, I can put a non-welder on this robot now and have them just push a button. And that's doable, but you need thousands of parts for that to make sense. And I've had people on welding robots, and they've first 100 pieces are right, but they're not understanding that, oh wow, the welder itself is the tip's not clean, or we're out of wire, or something's not looking right on the weld. They can't understand what a weld's supposed to look like. So I know there's a big push to automation, but be careful. Like, you need thousands of parts, and it comes back to, you need to know how to, as business owner, operate it, program it, and don't rely on a job to pay for it. A lot of those things is, you're better off buying a used robot on your own cash, on your own time, and getting it up and running before you're able to kind of take on jobs. Because if you got the pressure of a job to get a big order done, and you're thinking this robot's going to solve your problem, like, you might be already in trouble. Lastly, on employees, a good employee's worth their weight in gold, in my opinion. Um, I will hold on to an employee. I will pay them over what they're worth. Um, when you have a good employee, keep them. I've gone without paying myself several times to make sure I have good employees. But also know that, if you see on the horizon that employees are bringing down your business, it's hard, but you got to get rid of them. You got to let them go find other work somewhere. And also, when you're hiring employees, man, don't be afraid to get rid of an employee if not working out. Like it's hard, but you know it's not going to do you well if you have an employee and you think they're going to work out next week or the week that after that. I've let an employee go on their second day. It sucks, but this is your business, and it's employees are. I could do a whole nother video about employees. It's it's the lifeblood of your business, but also it can be the downfall also. So it's have good spend effort to have good people around you, but also know that if it's not working out, time's not going to heal that. Cut the cord and move on. I hope the best for you. Good luck. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Thank you.